Hello, my name is Luke. I'm the marketing manager here at SourceFind Asia, coming at you today with something a little different. If you haven't heard already, this week Rico and I will be hosting a webinar on the 4 steps we use here at SourceFind Asia, and what we'll be teaching you is what we call the SAFE method, where we teach you to search, assess, finalize, and elevate your manufacturing process. So to give you a little sneak peek of what's to come, I'm going to be showing you the clip from our last webinar, and that's the search method. So please enjoy. Don't forget to sign up for the upcoming webinar and come prepared, come with questions. I'll see you then.
With search. So this is an obvious place to start. I think the first thing you have to think about when it comes to searching is what is the best method? Where am I going to be searching, right? So if you're not in China, obviously the best resources is the online approach, Alibaba, global sources, 1688.com. 1688 is essentially like Alibaba, but it's more for local suppliers. So you'll get cheaper factories on 1688, but they might not be as familiar with the export process, and they probably won't have English-speaking staff because they're used to selling to the Chinese market. So you can definitely take advantage of that, but just keep in mind that you do have to be able to communicate. You're going to have to educate the factory a little bit more and need to speak in their language. Some of the best methods to find factories are word of mouth. So if you know other people, if you have friends or business partners who have worked with other factories that can give you recommendations, that's obviously going to be a great resource to working with a supplier. It's similar to any sort of business, right? Like if you know your friend has used this service and they thought it was fantastic, it's probably better for you to use that service than try to find a completely new one yourself. There's obviously trade shows like the Canton Fair and the Global Sources Summit. So those are awesome resources to find factories. Today, I'm going to be focusing on the online approach and specifically Alibaba, because I'm sure the vast majority of you guys on this webinar look for factories in Alibaba. So rather than me talking about it, I'm going to physically show you how I approach sourcing suppliers off of Alibaba. So as you can see here, we're on the Alibaba homepage, right? And the first thing that I would do is I would just type in the name of the product. So I'm sure a lot of you guys who are familiar with Amazon FBA or have consumed any sort of Amazon FBA content know what this product is, and you know why I'm using it as an example. It's one of the most generic products that you could use. So what I do is I would type in the name of the product, right? And if I know the material, I would type in the name of the material as a descriptive word. So let's say you're looking for a bamboo garlic press or a stainless steel garlic press. That's what I would type in the search. You don't want to be too specific with keywords in the search here, because a lot of factories might not know which keywords clients are looking for. So you end up like losing out on good factory options if you were very specific in your keyword search here. So garlic press, and then after that you would come to the first batch of results. So Alibaba has basically remained the same over the years. They used to have way more ways to filter suppliers. Like there was little badges and stuff that suppliers had, but I think they realized that people were beginning to catch on that those badges didn't mean anything. So what they've done is they've narrowed down the filters to just basically location, and then there's a couple supplier types, and then maybe MOQs and things like that. So with us, we're based in Guangzhou, China. Our office is in Guangzhou, which is in Guangdong province. So I would usually go to and select China, right? And then I'd select Guangdong, which means now I'm looking at factories that are relatively close to my office. It's easier for us to deal with factories that are relatively close to our China office. The next thing is supplier types, right? And Balio, I think you had asked in your questions before, is there a method of paying suppliers in China where you could be protected and ask for your money back? And that's exactly what Alibaba Trade Assurance is. Personally, because we are in China and we deal with factories all the time, we don't necessarily always look for factories with trade assurance, but I can 100% understand why somebody outside of China would want to use this. So it's kind of like an insurance policy. You select trade assurance, and when you place an order with the factory, you have to submit your contract or whatever contractual documents that you have with the factory to Alibaba. And then you also have to pay through the Alibaba platform. And that way, if something goes wrong, you can file a complaint with Alibaba, and they'll look into the complaint, and then they'll look into maybe giving you a refund or compensating you or trying to work it out with the factory. And typically, they will allow you to get a refund. I think it's about up to $50,000 is the last time I checked. Now, the only issue with trade assurance is a lot of factories don't want to use this because, one, they don't receive the money up front. And then two, there's a lot of fees involved. Alibaba takes a fee for processing the payment. There's an escrow fee, and then there's another fee for transferring the money from Alibaba to the supplier's bank account. So a lot of suppliers are not particularly fond of trade assurance. The other thing is verified supplier. Verified supplier just looks nice. I think, in my opinion, I don't really take that much stock in this. If you want to use verified supplier, that's fine. But I mean, a lot of factories they just pay Alibaba to become a verified supplier. It doesn't really mean anything. So once I've filtered out my options a little bit, I'm going to now start scrolling down the page, and I'm looking for factories that have the design of the product that I want. Right. So I would just start scrolling down, and let's say I'm looking for this more circular style, right? I would just start opening up websites, right? Just opening up links, anything that looks similar to what I like. And at this stage, I'm only looking for design. I'm not really looking at all the other aspects. The next thing I do, once I've got about 5 to 10 tabs open, I'm going to start looking at their home pages. So if you click a factory like this, you'll see the home page. They have the main product. They have the per unit cost. I then scroll down to learn more about their business. So similar to any business, if you go to their home page, you want to see, do they have a clear description? Do they have a clear description of their products, of their business, of their factory, of maybe even clients that they worked with? Do they have good product photos? So this factory seems to have a good description of what they do, their story, partners, their certificates. They've obviously worked with a couple big brands here. So that's really good. This factory, as you can see, very basic information. They really just have the product description and a few product pictures. But beyond that, there isn't much information about them. So for me, this is the kind of listing that I wouldn't pay attention to. I like to pay attention to the factories that have really tried to describe who they are. And then, of course, they're really just trying to target Amazon sellers. So they even put Amazon into their keywords. So going back to this factory that I really like, the next step that I take is I'll go to company profile. And I'll check business type. So it says manufacturer and trading company. And you can actually get quite a lot of key information just off of this initial step. But I will then go to view this supplier's website. So now when I get to view the supplier's website, how am I assessing the factory from here? I'm looking at whether they are making similar products to the product that I want. And are they making products with the same material type? So if you find a factory on Alibaba and they're making stainless steel garlic presses, but they also sell Ray-Bans and they sell watches and they sell shoes and bags, it's probably not a factory. That's a very good sign of it being a trading company, because the trading company is able to list a wide variety of products. It's very difficult for a factory to have all the expertise and machinery in one place to make all these different products. So like if you see them with a very wide range of products with no sort of cohesion, then it's probably a trading company. So if you're looking at this, I can see that their focus is mostly kitchenware and a lot of stainless steel products as well. So this is a good sign. Another good sign here is that if I wanted to expand my product line in the future, let's say I'm starting off with garlic presses and I want to source stainless steel, a stainless steel pizza cutter. They make that. So this is a factory that you could potentially grow with and expand your product line with. So that's a good sign. The next thing I would do here is I would go to their company profile. get a good idea of who they are, just double checking manufacturer trading company. That's good. And then I want to start getting their contact information and starting to make a short list. So if you're not logged into Alibaba, a lot of times they won't show you the details. Alibaba wants you to log in and hop on a chat. But if you log in, you should be able to get their details, or you can go maybe off to another website that will give you their contact information. So once I start collecting the information, going back to the presentation, I like to create what we call an initial factory list. So the initial factory list just has the basic information, the name, location, factory, trading company, how many employees. This is all information that you can get off of the Alibaba listing. A lot of times the information on the listing is not necessarily accurate. So you want to double check as you're assessing the factory, you want to be verifying this information. But what we do when we're creating our reports, our sourcing reports with our clients, is we make an initial factory list of about 20 to 50 factories. This is an internal list that we create. And then from there, we're adding information, adding comments, and narrowing down as we go through it. So once you have your initial factory list and you have a short list of 20 to 50 suppliers, you want to send out that first email. So what does a first email look like? What is that supposed to look like? This looks like a very normal email, right? Like if you sent this to anybody in an English-speaking country, it seems completely fine, right? It seems very structured. However, when you're talking to Chinese manufacturers, you're talking to people that sometimes English might be their fourth or fifth language. So for you to create a block of text with very important information and questions, it's just going to confuse them. They're not necessarily going to know what the most important information is in here and what the most important questions are. So this is an example, in my opinion, of a bad email when you're contacting a factory for the first time. This is a good email. So the difference here, as you can see, is that the sentences are shorter, right? There's more space. The sentences are more clear. It's not a blocked text. And then you have the product. So product one is this, the features are this, and it's boom, 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 and then a picture. Product two is this, features, boom, 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 and then a picture. And then instead of having all those questions in huge paragraphs, what I would do is I would put the questions in a bullet pointed list or a numbered list. Like you can see here, it's very easy, even if you don't speak English, even if you don't read English, it's very easy to at least know what the specific questions are here. And if somebody replies only to these, you're still going to be getting more valuable information, right? So the factory person can then copy and paste each one of these and have it translated, or take it to somebody else who has maybe more technical expertise to get these questions answered. So this is the end of the search portion of the presentation. I just want to hey guys, thanks for sticking around. And yeah, it's time for the Q&A. So if you guys have, I know you guys submitted a lot of questions beforehand, but if you have any immediate questions, you can put them in the group here in the chat. So I think somebody had submitted, I think it was Brandon Olin had submitted, crossing the language barrier and, communicating design specs. So with design specs, generally, again, if you identify what kind of product you're making, if it's a product that involves textiles, then you want to have a tech pack. And that's basically a pack that explains, like I said before, it explains what the materials of each part of the product is. So if you're making a bag, there's the type of zipper that the bag is going to have. It's the pockets that are inside the bag. So this is just like a PDF or sort of clear document that shows each of the individual specs and the sizes and things like that. If it's a product that requires injection molding, like a water bottle, things like that, you want to have a CAD file, which is sort of 3D renderings, and which also has the specs. So as long as you have your technical documents, then most factories should understand what you're trying to achieve. Language barrier, of course, a lot of factories have English-speaking staff. If you are communicating with factories off of 1688, which is sort of the Chinese local Alibaba, that's more for local buyers. You definitely need to have somebody translate the information and translate the back and forth. Jai Josh actually has dropped a question. He says, in one of your YouTube videos, you mentioned that the top manufacturing companies usually don't give so much attention to customers that require similar product quantities. So for these 3 to 5 companies you identify for your product, my question is, how do I know the best one to go with, considering the balance of quality and attention that the supplier will provide me? That's a fantastic question, Jai. So that's part of the sourcing report process, right? Like if we're communicating to factories, we're telling them what your requirements are very early on in the manufacturing research process. So we typically don't actually bother with factories that aren't interested. And you can tell very early, especially because my team are all Chinese, we can tell from talking to somebody on the phone whether they are serious about the order, whether they're just trying to, get another order into their factory. And, a lot of the big factories will tell you up front that this is not an interesting order for them. So that 3 to 5 factories that we recommend at the end will generally be, depending on your size of your order, will generally be probably small to medium size factories if you're starting with a small to medium sized order. We try to match the factories to our client. Hey, what's up guys? It's Rico here, back with another one, but this time it's a webinar one. We hosted a webinar a couple months ago on the 4 steps to find Chinese manufacturer, the same steps that my company uses SourceFind Asia that we've developed over the last 10 years. And it was so popular, we decided to do another one. So this is going to be December 12th, December 13th. So if you're in East Coast time, that would be December 12th, 8 p.m. and then 8 a.m. the next day, December 13th. If you're in Southeast Asia and most of Europe, it's mostly going to be December 13th. So there'll be one webinar in the morning on December 13th and another one evening on December 13th. So the link is in the description below to show you all the time zones. And like I said, this is on the 4 steps that we use to find Chinese manufacturers. The difference between this webinar and the last one is that we had so much Q&A on the last one. We had 25 minutes on the last one at the end that told me that people wanted a little bit more crowd interaction. So in this webinar we're going to be doing, at the end of each section of the presentation, we are going to be having a live Q&A in between before I move on to the next section. So it's almost going to be like the presentation itself will be there, the value, but then there's also going to be sort of a live consultation that you get from me, personalized consultation for free. So definitely want to see you guys there. Like I said, it's December 12th, December 13th. Link is in the description below. We're also going to have a special Christmas bonus for people that attend the webinar.